Welcome to the Customer Smarts podcast, where you'll discover smarter ways to deliver customer experiences. I'm your host, Justin Stafford. Most organisations right now have a big focus on leveraging AI. So I wanted to create an episode on how to develop an AI strategy and put it into action. My guest in this episode, Lucio Ribeiro, is recognised as Australia's #1 speaker on AI. He's held executive roles with some of the largest organisations in Australia, including the Seven Network and Optus, has worked with companies like Channel 9, Mercedes, BMW and Goldman Sachs, and he's also a Forbes columnist and a former lecturer. So a very smart human. In this episode, we're going to explore the challenges organisations are facing with AI, the levels of AI maturity in organisations, AI strategy fundamentals, and how to put an AI strategy into action. Welcome, Lucio. Thanks for coming on the podcast.
Oh, well, thanks for inviting me and thanks for having me. Big pleasure. Thank you.
I'd like to start with AI maturity inside organisations. Prior to ChatGPT launching, many organisations have been on a long digital transformation journey. And for some of them, AI was already part of that. But then ChatGPT created that massive spotlight on generative AI. And now it's been almost 2 years, I think, since it launched. From your perspective and what you're seeing, how have organisations responded to this new technology, and what levels of AI maturity are you seeing out there at the moment?
Well, it's a fair start, Justin. I think this going back to November 2022,
Yep.
that changed everything, right? ChatGPT was really possibly the tipping point for Gen AI or generative AI because and the reason is it made the technology very accessible and the technology practical and undeniably impactful, right? It showed people how AI could generate human-like text, solve problems, and create content on real time. And I think that the big milestone around there, November 2022, when ChatGPT launched, was their level of usability or their level of user interface and user experience broke down all the barriers, right? What used to be very complex and niche suddenly became a tool for anyone to leverage. That demonstrates the importance of customer experience.
Yeah.
And it really sparked this massive global shift, turning AI from this back office, highly technical, difficult to implement into a capability that became a front line and allow people to innovate and allow individuals to collaborate using state of art technology. So that's a starting point, and you're absolutely correct on there. I mean, we now probably don't want to lose the time of your audience explaining the theory of AI and generative AI and 1950s and tests and all this sort of stuff. This is important but boring, but let these to educators. But what I've observed in the last few years, and I would say slightly more than 2 years, is what I think is commentators and enterprise organizations fall into a few camps, perhaps 4 camps or 5 camps. So let's start my list. I love my list. Okay. I love my 3 or 4 things. But anyway, I think there's a few camps here in terms of AI maturity. I think there's the camp of pioneers integrating AI deeply, and those folks and these sort of businesses and this sort of enterprise and people not really talking anymore about the fashionable return on investment and the hypothesis. They just integrate, and now 2025 it's the year of scale for this, most of them. I think there's another camp which is more a cautious adopters experimenting with hypothesis and building up very limited use cases. These are, I would not call them laggards, I would call them just the second wave of innovation. There's definitely a camp of those who are stuck in analysis paralysis, kind of like this a little bit of echo chamber talking about, oh yeah, but I don't really see the return on investment yet, or what we should be doing, and can you do another presentation, or can you build it up the use cases, or how it's going to be looking like in 2 years, and all that kind of PowerPoint hell. And then finally, I think I'm not even talking about the noise. Let's get to the side of it. But I think the another camp is the LinkedIn critics that became quite fashionable. And I follow a whole lot of really smart, intelligent people on LinkedIn. There are some folks, there are some women and men who are extremely intelligent, but became quite fashionable just to say, oh yeah, Gen AI, it's bullshit, not gonna go anywhere. And like, we have AI experts talking about AI that they don't know what they're talking, and I understand why. There's a lot of noise and there's a lot of focus on tactical execution and hacks. It feels a lot like you've been around for a little for some time, and I'm assuming that many of your audience and the CMOs and the senior marketing directors listening to this remember the time when SEO and search engine optimization became a thing, and people just wanted to learn the hacks and how to get the hacks rather than produce really good quality websites. Like, oh, let's learn the hacks.
Yeah,
or
it's
even
shortcuts,
social media.
isn't it? Everyone wants it. Impatience. Everyone wants things now and don't want to put in the work.
And I as a consultant myself, I don't like the noise, but at the same time, you need enough volume to build a category so you can start having some sort of conversation around there. But look, I think what I observed so far, just in terms of AI maturity, these are kind of the camps, right? Let's talk about business who are either implementing or about to implement AI in terms of maturity with those type of enterprises. You see those who are kind of struggling to understand where the business goes are. Am I saving money? Am I creating new products, creating new services? While others are now wrestling with the scaling beyond proof of concept. They have done the proof of concept. They have put a hypothesis. They work around some baseline of generative AI with some the likes of Microsoft Copilot or Google Gemini or OpenAI ChatGPT, and they say, okay, great, we can do some stuff here, but how do we now go to scale this? So I think the way you look into AI maturity, we can look around the maturity on enterprises and the maturity of the tools. Let's not talk about the tools. We probably can talk about this later, but the AI maturity today is not just about having the technology. It's about embedding into workflows, and making sure that your team, your workers, the members of your business can actually work on that, and then starts to look into the culture where AI is not really a thing. AI, it's embedded, it's there. People just feel very comfortable.
Yeah, and we were having an interesting chat prior to this around different sizes of companies and the challenge that big organizations, big enterprises have, because there's so many people to involve in AI. I mean, essentially when you strip it back, I think these AI tools are here, and you can build an agent, you can get some stuff on the surface up pretty quickly, but it's the people and the I guess the politics and the corralling people, creating a vision, getting things done, that sort of slowing things down. And then you mentioned some of the medium-sized players who are doing well in the space, who are sort of making gains because they could be a bit more agile. Can you sort of just talk a little bit about that and some examples there?
Yeah, sure. So look, I think that it's understandable that large corporates, they'll be a little bit more careful on the way they will implement some of these rising technology. It's understandable, right? You have more, you're bigger, you have more to lose, and you have
more risk,
and then you have more risk. And if you think about some of businesses that I worked for, so I don't know, let's think about Optus, for example, where I spent some fair amount of time there as their director of technology innovation. There's a series of obligations you have with the government and associations and bodies that govern their telecommunication, that it's not just about the business inside the people inside the business not be willing to do it. It's the fact that you are surrounded by conditions that don't allow you to do it. Without going into the details, but you have data that you do not want to carry on these walls, but you need to do it. You need to be hosting that data because the government has you have some obligations with the government. So anyway, and if you think about a few of these industries, if you think about utilities in general, telecommunication, energy, and if you think about, I don't know, banking and financial services, is a series of obligations. So there's this element there. You have more obligations that offers a higher risk. So you need to be much more careful. You talk about millions and millions of users. So that's a consideration. But the reality is also, as we know, culture it's hard. And now I'm detached. I'm not talking about necessarily my former employers, where it's 7 or 9 or Optus or consulting business that I worked before. I'm talking about the general. The biggest challenge is not necessarily the technology. It is a mindset as well. I think the organizations really struggle with defining where generative AI or AI sits in defining where it's going to fit and what the problem is. And then on top of this, you're talking about there is the corporate ego, that's there. I've seen in a lot of implementations, a lot of consulting work that I've done, is there is a big part of the challenge, which is not necessarily mobilizing the workers or mobilizing the workforce and get them excited. This is a challenge, but it's not the biggest challenge. Finding partners and assembling a partnership portfolio that you can get, that's not the biggest challenge. The technology, understanding exactly which one offers the best technology for your use cases or your objective, that's not the biggest challenge. Once you bring this together, building up a vision, hard, not the biggest challenge. The biggest challenge end up being mobilizing and galvanizing senior leadership to allow you to actually do the work. What is even a prototype? So you might find leadership members who are more conservative and they want more projections and they want more KPIs and they want more predictions of reality of what could happen, and unfortunately you don't have that. Then you find executive members who I find really hard to let it go, and so you find yourself in this middle ground that you need to be building up PowerPoints and building up presentations, and then you think you're close to this, and then you set up a meeting, and then you have a working group, a steer group, and then this steer co says, "Oh, you also need to talk to Justin from that area." And then you go after Justin. Justin cannot see you because Justin is about to go on holidays, and then Justin say, "Oh, like now you talk to me, you also need to talk to Mary from that department," and then you go after Mary, and then you create this series of false commitment. It's just this false sense of comfortable of governance, which is not really governance, just this false feeling of inflated importance or governance. So this is a really an issue, and then it's a challenge that you get around there. But I think there. What smaller businesses and medium-sized businesses who have innovation on their DNA, they allow them to run faster because they don't have their inherited individual sense of importance. So I'm currently working with a publisher, Mamma Mia, and I'm impressed with the speed to market that these guys bring. It just really works. We sit down, we talk about objectives, we talk about potential risks, we talk about the view, and that it moves fast, it moves fiercely, and there's, I'm not sure, Justin, if you and your audience are familiar with the 2 doors decision mindset of Amazon. You might be, but if you don't know, let me explain.
Tell us,
for the audience. So I love this mindset of 2 doors, 1 door, 2 doors decision set at Amazon. And it goes around the mindset that you sometimes you make decisions, and that's a 1 door. You cross, there's no turning back. So those decisions, they are impactful. They need to be careful thought through. You should be bringing a mindset, a diverse mindset to that thinking, like a legal, corporate affairs, product, and a diverse perspectives, because there's no turning back, my friend. The moment you made a decision, the moment you implement the decision, you cross the door, and here you are. But lots of the decisions around AI right now, they are two doors decision. You cross through the door, there's another door to cross. It's not really a massive commitment that's going to impact a whole lot of people. And then you don't need the same amount of commitment. You don't need the same amount of diversity, IP and thoughtful diversity, because you're experimenting. You have a couple of hypotheses, and some of these hypotheses are purely, will this thing work? That's it. That's all we needed. Can I work with this supplier? Can I work with this partner? Is Lucio the right person to implement this execution if I need to scale? So you're testing small little variables. That's not transformational for the business, but these are fundamentally foundational exercises that will allow you to then do something that's big enough.
Yeah, and we were talking a little bit before as well about the, big organizations have lots of departments and structures and silos and sub-silos and people to get across it, got people with different views. It's hard to get an operating model that's really efficient. So if your operating core is not efficient and then you put AI on top of that, are you getting as much uplift as you should? So it's like, buying a 1950s car and then building a Ferrari frame around it. If you do that, it's still not going to drive very fast. It's just going to look good in the car park. Do you think that's something that companies need to address?
Look, I love the example, Justin. I know we're having a coffee to warm up for the podcast, and I think that's a very tangible example. Like you can put lipstick in a pig and call whatever you want, but it's still a pig, and you can put AI things around your system and fail, and it's not AI implementation. Look, I think we need to go back to some of the principles, right? I mean, I think that if you think about a manager or a senior director or someone who is a senior enough, that person walks to her boss or to the board and ask what the problem we want to solve for this business. And it doesn't matter the size of the business, right? It might be a medium-sized business. So you after the problem solving or opportunity crafting. And it's normally one of the 3 C's. It's normally one of these 3 C's. That's what in terms of innovation world, which I've been working for many, many years now, decades. It's around the 3 C's, and that's costs, consumers, which is kind of sales, whether you're talking about new customers or increasing share of wallet, and then competitors. So it's normally you talk about the problems to solve. You normally talk about one of these 3 C's: costs, customers, or consumers, and competitors. So, and normally innovation is the remedy, is the solution for one of those 3 pillars. But most of the failures in innovation are because of the focus on the use cases. Normally, I've seen this a lot of times when you talk about generative AI and AI. Normally is focus on the what you're going to do. So someone found a tool and say, "Hi, we need to work. I found this cool tool, I don't know, Runway ML, and we're gonna use this, and we're gonna do videos." And it starts from the what, and not on the focus on the why. And the how. And normally you don't fail. If you look to the history of failing in innovation in businesses, you do not fail on the what. You fail on the why we're doing. You kind of lose the focus on why you're doing, and actually on your inability to execute. Like you're not good enough. You don't have the competence. You don't have the capability or capacity in execution. So it's the how. Right. So I don't know. It's like the example, Justin, like imagine I turn to you, we are business partners, and say, "Hey, Justin, I'm going to bake cakes, but I don't know how I'm going to be charging for these cakes, or even worse, I don't have an oven for the cake. So I don't have the basic capability. So business innovation don't sit on the what, it sits on the why. That's why this noise on LinkedIn about generative AI, it's too hype, because there's a lot of the what. There's a lot of people, and I know a lot of them who are capable marketers or capable business people. They're really good on what they're doing. Then suddenly they watch videos and they read blog posts about generative AI, and they come to LinkedIn and they say, hey, I'm a generative AI or AI expert. Okay, fine. And they talk a lot about the how, the heck. So you can go to, even on the talks I do, Justin, I do a lot of keynote speakings. I do 3-4 keynote speaks a month, and I have modules of my keynote speaking. And the thing that gets really people excited, it's the demonstration of the watch, it's the tools. I say, hey, this is how I put my face, and I get a dog's face, and I bark, and I make the dog sing Bruno Mars, and those things. This is the but business innovation sits on the why and the how, never on the what. And there's a right and a wrong way to think about innovation. That's one of the most studied thing in business academy. It's innovation. There's theories, there's proof, there's studies. And I know that, again, it's another fashionable way to criticize. A lot of people say, oh, innovation should not be a department, should be a mindset, and then like all this sort of stuff. And then again, we can talk about this in another time. But I think that one of the problems is, we are seeing one of the challenges, CEOs and CMOs and business leaders are getting inundated with the noise of the what, the tools. Every day, someone going to say, hey, I saw this tool, Google Notebook LM, it can do podcasts, it can summarize, and we can get a company report, put it up there, that transforms into a podcast, and then becomes like, oh my God, stop. I need to do P&L. I need to attend meetings. I need to develop new products. I need to make money. I need to talk about human resources. I need to do all this stuff, and they talk about these tools. No. And why do I need to put a company report and transform into a podcast? Why this is important for the business? So I think I do understand very much where the senior execs and CMOs and the VPs of marketing and the CEOs come from. They've been inundated by their own teams and their own leaders on the what and the tools, and become overwhelmingly. And then you don't really necessarily go back to, okay, great. We do this thing. You want to do this AI thing? Let's do this thing. What are the 2 or 3 things that we going to be high-fiving in 1 year or 2 years when we finish this execution? What are the 1 or 2 things that we're going to be high-fiving on the corridors and say we made it? It's not the fact that ChatGPT is there, now you can do 3 bullet points and summarize and review your grammar. It's not that. It's the fact that you have saved X amount of money, or you have generated X amount of incremental time for your workforce. Is that like you now have decrease your risk in documentation by X%, so your governance is better now. It's the fact that now you can go from ideation to product in 2 weeks rather than 2 months. So these are the tangible ways to think about innovation. So
yeah, cool. So really, you got to try and put the shiny toys, AI toys aside, and sort of, focus on the why and figure that out first, which is hard to do. I think there's so many popping up every day, but that's makes a lot of sense, because if you're not connecting it to the why, it's going to get hard to get traction. So the next question I was going to ask, I think maybe sort of started talking about in a little way, but about AI strategy fundamentals. If you're working for a large organization developing an AI strategy, what are the most important foundations to get right? I mean, you talked about the why there. So yeah, maybe if you can just go, here's the few things, the most important things to get right at the start, and where do they start that process?
Yeah. Okay. AI strategy fundamentals. Okay. Look, Justin, in my experience, it kind of sits in pillars.
Yeah.
All right. And there's, it depends of your business culture, and depends of the category that you are. You kind of prioritize one over another. It's and I think it's business, data, trust, partners. Yeah, I would say it's business, data, trust, and partners. Yeah. And I'll come back to this because I think that there's an element of culture, and again, I feel like I'm talking to you on this podcast here, Justin. I'm using a little bit vanilla, kind of repeatable words that you always hear the same things about culture. It's about business solving. You start with a why, but the reality is, I've been working. I'm gonna make this about myself for a little while, just to give confidence to your audience. And because it's my favorite topic,
go
myself.
For it.
I'm joking, but
that's what we want here.
my first experience with AI, it's back in 2010-ish, 11, something like along those lines. And I was working with IBM Watson, and we are working through a few ways to build creative at scale, and we're just doing headlines and trying to find headlines for different profiles. We had this client. They had about 500,000 people on their loyalty program, but the loyalty program had people from, I don't know, 14 years old to 70 years old, and there were like lots of cohorts, and we had to do a lot of campaigns for them. It was a case apart. Got a lot of awards, and we didn't have the capacity in the team. I didn't have that many copywriters to write all these headlines. I just needed variations of headline. And I got IBM Watson to do those things for us, and worked really well. And then we implemented some elements around later on Facebook to come up with dynamic creatives on Facebook, very manual there. Then I worked with Mercedes-Benz creating weather-based ads, and then ABC to create weather-based ads. So you'd be, there's a great case here, TV. I have lots of experience in media, working with some of the, I have worked for 7, have worked for 9, have worked with ABC as a consultant. But during summer, and I have not forgot the question. The question is AI strategy fundamentals. I'll get back there. I'm just giving context. During summer, Justin, it's a really bad time for media, for TV. Most people are outdoors and not really engaging. So audience goes down, and if your audience goes down, obviously advertising dollars go down, and it's a ripple effect. So you have a big impact on the bottom line. So every new person that you can bring back to your program and get them to watch it's a big win. It's a thing to do. So we developed back in the time, this thing with ABC that we wanted to bring back people back to watch ABC iView and make sure they were watching the PVOD. And then we come up with a series of advertising that were heavily based on the weather conditions, not just if it is hot or not, but if it is hot or not, if it is sunny or not sunny. There was a series of conditions that we kind of brought together and associated to a few titles that they had in their portfolio that we knew that psychologically speaking, people are more likely, if it is dark and cold, people are more likely to watch terror movies or suspense. And if it is a little bit more sunny and beautiful, people are more willing to watch romance. There's a whole lot of series of studies around there. And we created a series of advertising that would be triggered differently based on these weather conditions. Thank you. The reason I'm talking about this is because that was really easy for me to get these executions. And it's a tactical executions. These are not transformative executions. But these were like, you got to remember, these like 10, 15 years ago. Yeah. And imagining you're talking to clients, senior clients, talking about generative AI and social media and automation back in that time, right? That was like, okay, dude, I just need some ads, right? But the reason I'm telling these narratives and I'm explaining these stories is because the executions here, Justin, were focused on existing customers. Yeah. And the highest performing companies, they have a really well-developed system tailored to capture value from their existing customers.
Yeah.
There's a theory in business called resources dependency, and that money or internal budgets go for initiatives that give you incremental innovation for existing customers. But another way to innovate is to break up with your current customers and go after new customers. Yeah. So you can actually guarantee higher value products or services. You can guarantee the future of the business. So it'll become a redundant business, as we see taxi industry become redundant because they didn't look into the new customers. Yeah. Because all the money, because of the theory called resources dependency, you are incentivizing a corporate to work to capture value from existing customers. So the challenge is innovators don't have too much room to innovate outside existing customers. There's a whole thing about Steve Jobs saying, look, you need to make the market. Don't ask your customers what they want. Yeah. So the freedom as an employer, I'm still talking about AI strategy fundamentals. I'm going over and over, and I'll get to the point, I promise, in the next 10 seconds. But the innovators in the business don't have too much room to innovate because the freedom to act is very limited in satisfying the needs of current customers. Yeah. Because they give resources to the business. So look across the TV industry, not just Australia, but the whole world. You don't have too much innovation because most of the executions they were doing are to satisfy what the audiences are watching today and yesterday on TV. And then the migration into digital, it's kind of like, okay, we look into that. So there's a big element of culture. That's what I've been explaining so far. Yeah. But then in terms of AI strategy fundamentals, then you have the cultural perspective. Will this business work? Will this business have the openness? It's a mindset. Will this business have the openness for that? And some businesses, Justin, don't have it. Simple, full stop. Yeah. There's no metaphysics explanation. They're just not engineered and built. There's no DNA. So what do? You run away, you move on. If you're a believer, just don't work there, right? Yeah. So once you have the culture to the side, you're thinking about now AI strategy fundamentals. You talk about business, why we're doing. You think about the data, and you think about trust, and you think about partners. And when I talk about partners, I talk about partners as being your internal team, your workforce, yeah, and the partners as a software partner or server partners. Yeah. So you start with the business problems that you focus. Okay, this is pragmatic. You're making money from saving money, yeah, so increase the margin, or you increase inventory, selling new stuff. Look at that. That's very pragmatic. Yeah, then you go to data. Okay, you gotta do, and that's a very hard thing to do because you need to do an inventory of your data. You need to think about your infrastructure. Is there ready to support AI? You have all the tags and you have this data organized. And when you talk about data, people normally think about customer database like names and emails and telephone numbers and all this stuff. This is one part of the data. But if you think about, I don't know, a business like lawyers and they have the offices, do you have your contracts? Is this contract with confidential information or confidential information? Am I classifying this as confidential or confidential? And what happens with documentations where I have half of these documentations that can be seen by anyone in my office, and these other documentations that can be seen just to directors and senior level, and these documentation can be just seen by partners. So this sort of stuff. And then you think about all this kind of, the governance of your data and the sovereignty. Data is a big part. And then you talk about risks around there. You kind of need to build risk preparedness and risk mitigations. What happens if things go wrong? And then finally, you talk about trust, right? Trust is an equation. And one of these trusts is, can I get my team, can I get my workforce to come in the journey with me? So engage cross-functional teams early, and then IT, AI is not really an IT project, but you need to have them in your team. So most of the teams that I led doing AI transformational work, one of the key fundamental roles to make sure that worked was to have someone focus on change management, someone with kind of a psychology background, team transformation, like someone who can understand org design, like someone on their capacity. There are not many, but they are fundamental to make this work.
Yeah.
And then
to wrap, feels like it's going to be the biggest thing, like that change management with AI. Whoever can do that the best is going to, I guess, make the most progress quicker, I guess.
Yeah, look, I've seen many executions here, Justin, when people thinking about assembling a team, not necessarily a team, but assembling putting a team of tennis players. They all have the same skills, and they just become better, worse, like coders all together, and it doesn't work. It's more like you're assembling
a team of champions kind of thing, rather than the right team with the right roles.
You're assembling a football team, or soccer team that you have very complementary skills. You have I always operated as being the AI director, and I'll be bringing together these different skills. But in my teams, I would have data scientists, I'll have engineers, I'll have a change manager, I'll have a comms person. So there would be no working full time for me. They'll be doing all the things, but it'll come assemble as a T-shape tiger team. Yeah. And then finally, just to finalize these AI strategy fundamentals, you think small. I like to work pilot projects to prove value. And just to make sure that you can assemble some sort of governance, you have some ethical, you have guardrails, and you can have tests of your accountability and what sort of questions popping up. I found out, like, even small little things, man. I found out that I thought I did an execution for one of my client, one of the contracts work that I've done, that we had an ongoing update with staff. And I found out that, like, simple little stuff, just I found out that holding those meetings around lunchtime would just not work. I thought I was doing them a favor, but they were hungry. They could not pay attention. They didn't want to show up. They felt that was part of the work. And I just, like, simple little things like that. Like, okay, if I assemble education training sessions, and like staff read this as being disrespectful, because, okay, I'm learning this and I'm deploying I'm learning new skills to apply in this business, and I'm doing my lunchtime. Like, okay, that doesn't make sense. So business culture, business data, trust, and partners. That's a kind of the kind of the pillars that you work around, the strategy fundamentals.
Yeah, that's a great little framework. Not little, but framework that you have there. And I guess the next part is that many organizations, they often get stuck in strategy mode. You mentioned analysis paralysis with new technology. What's the best way to start actioning the AI strategy? Where would you start?
Look, Justin, the talk is cheap, right? If you want traction, it starts small but aim big. And I like to think about choosing a high impact use case with clear outcome and opportunity to iterate quickly. Then you can celebrate small wins, and then you can demonstrate measurable value. So one of the things I really like to do is to look across businesses. I where we are now in AI, to be completely honest to your audiences and to everybody else who is interested, is we are in the world of operation efficiency. That's what we are. I mean, obviously, there are different outliers that are doing much more than this. If you can look into Commonwealth Bank, they talk about customer experience. They are way ahead, and some other businesses are too. The tech business like Spotify, YouTube, they're way ahead. And some of the businesses are experimenting with use cases. They are beyond operation efficiency. But that's where we are right now. This is the proving point. So if you think about the thing I like to do, and that worked for me, is I started a mindset there, okay, senior leadership, let's focus in one big thing. And that's one big thing is operation efficiency. Okay, it's like how we we work better. And if you work around this, we look into things that are ripe for automation. I know the purists in AI say, look, automation is not the same as AI. Yeah, whatever. I don't care what you think. The fact is that's a really nice start. It's a really good start. So I have a case where we worked with a large enterprise, and we found out a legal process that was spread across the business. They had lots of different business people doing exactly the same process, highly manual, ripe for automation. Right? We work across automating that workflow. It's pretty much building forms. And then we shaved hundreds of hours of execution on that. And what are you going to be doing with these hours? Well, that's to business management. I mean, there's definitely the path of making people redundant. Let's not hide the facts. There is happening, and this will happen. And the question to corporates is, we will make this, we'll do this a little bit more responsible. We'll empower these people who are going to be made redundant. We'll give them enough education so they're prepared to go to the marketplace and find a better job. So, but this is going to happen. If the corporates wants to get that extra time and include new creative projects and increase productivity, fine, do it. But there is a saving time there. So I like to look into the fact that AI now it's being used primarily for operation efficiency. Then on the operation efficiency, scan your department and then your business unit, the category or the whole enterprise for processes and actions that are ripe for automation. Get there, start at small, implement something that's measurable around there, and it goes around 3 metrics. Did I save time? That's the number one. And I have proved now from the exercises that I have done in different clients and different consultancies that it goes around 3 to 4 hours a week just on in terms of time savings per person per week on the operational layer. So am I saving time? That's number one. Second, that you can measure as well is, am I producing more materials that I would produce in a normal week? And then the third one is, are the materials, even if I'm not producing more, the ones I'm producing are higher quality? Are there more depth to that? These are the 3 things. So then you can do is you just empower a small number of people, teams with the tools, the training, and autonomy to experiment on there. Create like a test kitchen, let them do that stuff. And do not overthink. AI is moving too fast. And if you wait for the perfect, you will be left behind. That's a lot of businesses already being left behind and miss this opportunity.
Yep. Yeah, I think get stuck in strategy mode rather just get into experimentation mindset and just play with it, learn and obviously with managing risk, but just get started. If we just go more broadly, what are some of the new things we might be seeing in the AI space and in the next 2 or 3 years? It's moving so quickly, isn't it? I mean, it's changing year to year, and within the next 6 months there'll be new stuff. But if you're going to forecast as far as you can ahead, what do you think's are we going to see? What are, let's say, the top 3 things we might see?
Okay, if I need to, there's a lot of stuff going to happen. I think these are kind of the 3 big things that I believe that we should be watching this year. One is possibly the implementation of agents, AI. Yeah. There's a lot of conversation around agents being ready to go and being incorporated. But there's a lot of risk. The problem we have on this, Justin, is the cyber risk with agents are real. Yeah. Are very real. So I think, but that's a thing I think we're going to be hearing much more on these agents this year. That's a lot of promise, and it's actually the execution, the technology it's perhaps ready. That's number one. The other thing that I haven't seen too many people talking about, and I say people, I mean proper thought leaders. I haven't seen that many talk, but I'm seeing the features coming from the tools. It's collaboration, and it's interesting. Like if you think about ChatGPT, it's been so far up to this point, very individual. Like what Justin does there, it's really good, but it's good for Justin. And you got this vertical that's just you, and you, and you. And then you see the features popping up from ChatGPT around projects. So it's more collaboration. So you and I can work together in a project, and Microsoft Copilot, and I think collaboration, it's going to be from individuals using generative AI for mundane tasks to collaboration around there, which I think that's quite interesting. Yeah. And then finally, I think that if you think about 3, I think that this year, there's a lot of promise around video AI. And video AI is not just what you're seeing about video creation like Sora or Veo from Google. I think that we think about a little bit more broadly about video. So think about this thing that we're doing right now, or thinking about Microsoft Teams. There's a promise that this year, Microsoft Teams, you can be able to have real-time translation of your voice to X amount of languages. So that it's still part of collaboration if you think about it. So I would say they're more than that, but these are kind of the 3 big things. I think that in terms of innovation, Justin, there's the principle of innovation convergency, right? Emerging technologies advance when separate innovations come together to form a connected and functional system. You have, so we are standing on the edge of some big leaps, and there's generative AI will keep evolving. The tools going to be smarter, and there's explainable AI, and there's a whole lot of stuff. But I think that's going to be very interesting, and it might be okay. That's a fair fetch. I'll summarize in this in 15 seconds. It might be there. We talk a lot about reasoning, AI reasoning. There's another thing, okay, but I'm not sure how this is going to be impacting heavily and transformation in business at this year. But I think that Meta is a big play in AI. Unfortunately, I think it's one of the most dangerous businesses in the world. I think that the rollout of Llama, their open source, in quotation marks, open source, it's increasing. They are probably one of the biggest utilized systems around generative AI because it's free, and I'm seeing a lot of startups. So I'll be very keen to understand how this will be rolling out this year. So bring this together. I think that 2025, in terms of what's next, is agents, video, we have the collaboration, and on the side, it's not really a trend. It's more like a watch out what happens around Meta, how Meta positions themselves this year.
Yeah, interesting. And no doubt by the end of in a year's time, it'll be lots of other things to think about as well. And what interesting things are you working on personally in the AI space at the moment?
So look, right now I'm neck deep in AI innovation and transformational work. So I'm consulting to a few businesses as AI advisor. One of them, as I said, it's Mamma Mia. There are a few other businesses under confidentiality, which is a funny thing because it's interesting that one of the things that I get asked a lot from this consultancy in AI is to keep confidential that these businesses are doing AI. There's this kind of hesitation. I'm doing a series of keynote speaking that's keep me quite busy, and I like to do the educational perspective of generative AI. I am deeply involved, Justin, in startups in Australia in terms of generative AI. I find there are things happening right now in January 2025 that might favor Australia in the global stage as AI innovators. There's 2 things happening, just to be to bring your audience up to speed. There are two things happen in the global stage. There is AI runs out of GPUs. That's the engine. So, and most of the GPUs comes from NVIDIA. So NVIDIA is in America. So the government put together a proposal of limiting the exports of NVIDIA chips around the world and build up 3 tiers of exports, tier 1, 2, and 3. Tier 3, it's prohibited. They're not going to export. They cannot buy NVIDIA chips. And it's like Russia and China. Then the tier 2, they can buy limited number of GPUs. And there's like countries like Singapore and Canada, they can buy, I can't remember, but it's like 50,000. And there's tier 1, they have a much higher limit. They can buy quite a good amount. And Australia is a tier 1. So we don't have that kind of obstacle. And then recently our government announced a potential plan for capability to build infrastructure of AI capabilities in Australia and incentivize. So you put these two things together, that puts us in a really good place. So I run an event with my colleague Vijay called the Innovator Series, and I think he was a guest of yours here.
Also was, Vijay. Hello, if you're listening.
Yeah, very smart guy, probably smarter than me. Definitely more experience.
Well, I think a great combination with you two.
But we started this series of events in Sydney called Innovator Series, and that's the idea, is to bring startups and corporates together to explore how AI can solve real world problems. And we do a series of events. We do bi-monthly events that we bring experts. We have a certain topic, we discuss what it is, and we show demos, and we put people to network. I'm leading a really large-scale Gen AI implementation trial across a large corporate at this point in time, working with global partners like OpenAI to see how it transforms workflow. So my interest now is to understand how AI can be practical and impactful and transformational for business, not theory. I don't have too much interest in the theory at this point in time in terms of corporate theory. I'm doing trainings in the corporate, but that's not the biggest thing. So I'm interested in the development of technology. I am interested in bringing this technology to enterprise and implement this, and I'm being quite successful on this. I'm interested in working with startups in the world of AI, and I've been neck down doing that stuff, and spreading the word of responsible and impactful AI like we're doing it right now.
Yeah, awesome. And where can people listening find you? LinkedIn, or where's the best place?
Oh, thanks for asking, Justin. I am on email. I'm quite active on LinkedIn, and perhaps we can share here. I'm Lucio Ribeiro on LinkedIn, and my email is hello@lucio.ai. I am quite responsive on primarily on LinkedIn, and I spend a reasonable, probably more time than I should.
Yeah, me too. Well, unfortunately, it's time to wrap up. It's been so great to chat, Lucio. Thanks so much for your time. You have amazing knowledge about AI, so really appreciate you coming and joining me.
Justin, it's a pleasure. I love being here. I love discussing. As you can see, I probably talk way more than I should, and maybe less than I would like.
We love passion here.
We're very passionate. As I say, I'm very, very happy to engage with your audience. I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on email. I have a column on Forbes that I write about AI, so please read the articles or just get in contact if you need. Thank you very much for making the time, and thanks for having me in your show.
Thanks for tuning in. Some amazing insights from a great business leader. If you found this insightful, make sure you hit the subscribe or follow button now, as we have some great episodes coming up. And if you have any questions or would like to chat, reach out to us at customersmarts.co. Catch you next time.